Welcome to Make a Path Presents. My name is Ronnie Hayes, and today, let's talk The Walking Dead comic Q&A number 2. Alright, kicking this off. Listen guys, if you want to participate in the Walking Dead comic Q&As, make sure to put your question in the most recent comic book Q&A video, please, in the comment box, and the very first thing you write, if you're participating that is Q and A, then your question. That's very important. When I scroll through, it makes it so much easier to pull out. I'm not making you do it, but if you do it, you have a better chance of getting your question in the video. Let's get right into this. Winter O Games. I don't even know. I wrote that down so sloppy. Sorry. Amy looks like Andrea you're talking about between the artists. You pretty much answered your own questions. Now, for those of you who don't know, when they went from Tony Moore's artwork to Charlie Adler's artwork, Amy and Andrea kind of shift looks, you know, somewhere along the lines there. Yeah, you answered your own questions. That was just the artist getting used to the characters and drawing. You know, no big deal. And it wasn't done on purpose. Your question, the way you worded it, makes it seem like they did it for a reason. They didn't do it for a reason. As far as what I know, it was just changing artists. Camille Dos Santos. Who will kill Alpha, Lydia or Carl? You know, Lydia would be a nice mix. However, nowadays it's becoming too cliche to have a main story and then introduce two characters that have issues with each other. Those issues play out, you know, with our main characters, and then at the end of that, the character kills the other one, you know, outside of the main characters. But I think that's being overused so much to where I would just prefer Rick to kill her, sorry. I would just prefer Rick or Carl, you know. So yeah, I pick Carl or Rick. Brant Cloyd. Do you think using Lydia will work or fail? Both. Depends on how you want to use it. I think if you want to use Lydia for knowledge and getting to know your enemy and attacking your enemy, then that will work. I think if you want to use Lydia as ransom, I think that will fail. Because I think the only person that really cares about Lydia right now that we know of is Alpha. And even then, she has to put on a front that she doesn't care, you know? Ethy Productions. You want Negan dead because there's no more story left for him. You, sir, are f***ing crazy. I personally believe, and I wrote this down real quick because it was the first thought that popped in my head, that I believe that characters are like mixing drinks. The writer is like the bartender, and, you know, each different characters is like the different drinks. You keep the same old characters, it's kind of like having the same drinks, so you'll have those fans dedicated to that character. But once you start mixing it up, it really, the variety, I should say, appeals to the masses. And I think that is extremely true, because you take Rick, you know, his character, if you just run with that, it will get old and it will get stale. That's why he mixes, you know, with different characters, different storylines and everything like that. Same with Negan. Before Negan was his own, he was running the Saviors, he was doing his own storyline, and he was clashing with our survivors, and it was great because at the time it was like a new mixed drink we can sip on. But now Negan is in jail. If you want to bring him back and start it again, I've always been against, you know, the Negan and Saviors Part 2, having Negan come out of jail and doing the same shit he did before. I'm against that. There's no variety in that. It's just the same old, same old. It's like you ever drink so much of one liquor and then you smell it later on and it just makes you sick. It's kind of like that. Going for years on end or months on end, or maybe even that one time you almost get alcohol poisoning on Southern Comfort. You smell it later down the line and you get sick. It's kind of like that. For me anyway, the stale storylines. So now taking Negan and using and mixing him with Rick in this new storyline, man, it's so new, it's so interesting, and it could go so many different ways. And by this I mean Negan counseling Rick or maybe mentoring him. Not actually like with Rick knowing it, but two guys just shooting the shit and Rick hearing what this guy has to say. I'm not talking he lets him out and he's like, oh, be my Eastman, you know what I mean? Yeah, I think you're crazy. But if you want him dead, that's on you. Brandon Badger. Love the vids. Thank you very much. What is my least favorite cover? You know what? I think it's probably the Tyrese and Michonne kissing with Carol in the background looking. Mostly because, one, I understand it is about the characters and that was something in the storyline. 2, that was probably one of my least favorite moments in the storyline. I just thought it dragged on, and it happened at a part in the story where the story was still new and fresh to the comic book world. And even though I wasn't reading it while it was new and fresh, I read it years after, it felt like it just was out of place at that time. For me personally, that kind of story, maybe it just didn't even belong, or maybe I personally just wasn't interested in it. So I would go with that cover. Anyhow, Deadhead. What is my favorite Walking Dead comic figure? Ooh, that is a good one. You know, I love the Rick Grimes, Andrea, you got Dwight, you got the punk rock Walker. I love it. This Walker right here from Series 4 is epic. That Carl is awesome. Carl's at almost near the top of the list, but I think Alpha, which is coming soon, that is a new level of awesomeness. I also have Comic Book Michonne from All Out War story arc. That one as well. Epic. So, ooh, that's hard. Now I'm going to go with Negan. Yeah, Negan is my all-time favorite right now. Comic book fig, Negan. But it's so hard because the Skybound exclusives are some of the best, figures out there. You got the Negan, the Jesus, the Ezekiel, the Michonne from All Out War. It's just, the list goes on. Nick Hall, you asked, what if Alpha released the herd anyway? That would be pretty devastating. I don't know why she would do that, but let's say she did do that. You know what? Part of the reason Alpha is mixing it up with the group, and part of the reason why she put the heads on... Holy crap, you scared me. Part of the reason why she put heads on spikes is, well, as far as we understand, it's because, remember Lydia said she never came across a group as big as you guys? I think Alpha's legitimately afraid of Rick and the other communities being so organized. I think that terrifies her, and it's too close for comfort. So I don't know if she's ready to risk that. She might be desperate enough to do that. But if she does it anyway, I think that would be devastating against the communities, because I don't think they're ready right now. I don't think they're ready. They have that wartime mentality. I don't think they do. So I think that would be pretty bad for the survivors. Then again, I'm not sleeping on the survivors. I think they already showed in issue 127 when they were moving the herd with the horns and stuff. I think that was set up to our survivors being able to handle this herd. So I'm not sleeping on them too. I think it would be a good war. You got a good amount of power on each side. Alright, I had to stop because CenturyLink finally got here to fix the internet. But back to the questions. The First Evil, 667. Well, first off, you compliment me helping you get into reading the comic and you love it now. That is absolutely awesome. I hear that a lot on my one specific how to read or how to start reading the Walking Dead comics, and I am so thrilled because that adds new people to join the discussions here, you know what I mean? Anyway, you want to know, will Sophia be like now after the whole Carl, Lydia, and Whispers thing? That's a hard one to gauge because they showed us a little bit of Lydia, post, All Out War and everything, and we don't really get a good view of her character and character traits and how she will react. When it was brought up that Carl has the hots for Lydia, they didn't focus on her. They didn't even have her say anything. She didn't make any faces. She didn't roll her eyes. And they do that a lot with certain characters. They will have a character in the background rolling her eyes, and then you could tell, oh, that character is bothered. They pack as much as they can in the panels, and because they didn't put anything, I really don't think there's anything there. However, she's known him a long time, so she obviously has an opinion, and she most likely won't agree with what Carl's doing. She, Lydia and Carl and Andrea is now on their way back to the hilltop. Regardless on if Sophia will be around when they get there, that might open up more problems, and that might even open up some more interesting stories. So I do believe that Sophia will still stay, friends with Carl, but I do believe she will be on the side not agreeing with him and what he's doing, you know what I mean? I don't get that vibe of a love triangle, though. I don't get that yet. It's possible, but I just don't see it. Tyler Mathna, is Lydia preggers? You know what? I don't know. That would be something in the story that would be interesting down the line. If it happened right now, if it was like, oh, Lydia is pregnant, I guess it would add to the complication if they had to protect it because that's, Carl's child in her womb. But then it gets to the point where it's like, is that Carl's child? Is this, Judith and Shane 2.0? Because she's being raped back at her village. So now I would rather her not be pregnant, put it that way, because then you got everyone going, is Carl the father? Is someone else the father? There's no way to test it. That would continue on forever. But it would add some interest to the story and to Carl if later on she did get pregnant and have his kid, and then we could see Carl, raising a kid in this. It would be, 3 generations. You had Rick Grimes, Carl Grimes, and then Carl's son. I think that would be very interesting, watching him grow up as a man in this world now. And I do believe that's somewhere where the comic book will go, just not right now. We're not, you know what I mean? He's still young yet, but in that style of that world, they should probably be getting there earlier than in our world now, because our world now, it softens kids up so much that, the generation, like my generation had to work differently. I don't want to put it, mix it up, but my generation just had a different life than the generation before. My generation, it's weird. It's that gap where when I was growing up, you didn't have internet. It was still new. It was whatever, but you went to work like a real job when you're like 14, 15. Now you hear kids not even starting work till they're like 17, 18. So luxuries in life, technology really makes us pussies. I'll be honest with you. It really softens us up and makes us entitled, offended, whining little bitches. That's what technology seems to do for the most part. And it's unfortunate, but in the apocalyptic setting, without the technology, without all this easy living luxury, we're likely to see Carl becoming a man, having a family earlier, 17, 16, shit like that, like in the olden days. Anyway, that was the last question. If you want to participate in the comic Q&As, read the instructions carefully in the description. If you do not put Q&A first thing in, chances are I'm not going to see it. Also, only ask comic questions in the comic Q&As. People are still asking in random different videos all over the place. And I just cannot search all my 500 videos and find them. I can't stress this enough. Keep it organized and it's fine. Alright, thoughts and opinions about these questions? How would you answer them? Or what's your opinions on the answers here? Leave all that in the comment box. I'm done talking. It's your turn. Subscribe now.